Warning: this podcast contains blasphemy, heresy, and profanity. Proceed at your own risk.
Don't say no prayers for me, 'cause I'm exactly where I want to be. Yeah, I'm a sinner through and through, and I'll be waiting in hell for you.
This is Dan.
This is Dylan.
Welcome to the Skeptical Satanists.
When we left off last time, I was interviewing Steve Hill, and we were discussing different topics between racism, classism, and what's going on around us today. And now, to continue that interview and the rest of the episode. Getting to, your thoughts on wage redistribution and maybe, the way that things are right now and how to get those fixed,
Did you say wage redistribution?
Or distribution to begin with.
Or did you say reparations?
Yeah, let's go for either one.
Let's go with reparations for a minute.
Yeah, let's go with that. I was talking about more of the separation of classes themselves.
Oh yeah, we can talk about it. We can transition into that. But
yeah,
let's talk about reparations for a minute. Now, do you think that there's a debt to be paid to black people for the work we did and for the brutality we survived?
Yeah,
and made it to today?
Yeah, I definitely do.
Okay. Now I do too. I think there's a debt to be paid. You know, if I was a landlord, I would be like, your rent's due, motherfucker, and it's time to pay up. And I don't think it should be, any kind of monetary compensation. I think that would be foolish. I think that our kids should be able to attend whatever college they qualify for, whatever they can get in. They should go for free for at least a couple of centuries.
Yeah.
And I also think black people could probably furlough their income taxes for a couple of centuries. To kind of put us back in the game.
Right.
Maybe we can start some businesses. Maybe we can have money to adequately upkeep our neighborhoods. Therefore, we won't have the need for gentrification. Maybe our land values where we live at can go up and rise instead of being, places like Chicago where there's no hope, not much to live for, but an overabundance of guns.
Yeah.
I mean, our reparations should be paid basically in education. I believe in education. I believe that's the only. I mean, you're still going to have racism after that. But if you're not educated, or you can figure out the fucking position we're in, if you can't get off that Jesus shit for a minute, because ain't nobody coming back here to help our black ass. If you can get off of that Jesus shit for a couple of generations, if we can start, weaning ourselves. I mean, we needed religion at one point because it gives you hope. And trust me, I'm pretty sure when you're a slave, you have very little fucking hope. So if somebody beat their God into you, you'll probably take it just to have hope.
Yeah.
But, this is 2020, and now we're just trying to survive this shit. So we need to wean ourselves off of that religion, man, and educate our kids. I like the Japanese culture. I spent a year in Japan. Watashi wa naskoshi ni ango, ne? I spent a year in Japan.
I believe you.
and they're really high on education. It's deeply rooted in their culture that you go and learn and live and be wise and get smart and be intelligent. And if we could do that, drop Jesus and kind of adopt education as what we worship, I think that'll take us a long way.
Yeah.
So that education, that's where I want our reparations to be. Now, do you want to talk about the redistribution?
Yeah.
Of wealth?
Yeah, I was curious about your views on that, but you pretty much touched on them with that, what you just said, as well, because I think it goes with the classes as well.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, let me ask you one. What do you think about a UBI?
UBI?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Go ahead and
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about our candidate Yang right now.
okay.
Universal basic income, man.
Okay.
So the people who have fallen through the net, you know, we are a consumer-based capitalistic society. We need people to buy shit and go places and do things and have money to spend.
Right.
And some people, and I'm thinking of descendants of slaves, some people can't even meet their basics. So if we could give everybody, I mean, fuck it, we print the money. Who we owe? If we print everybody $2,000 a month, you know, people who, some people are just unemployable, don't know shit, can't do shit,
Yeah.
but they still need, you know, be taken care of.
Yeah.
But I think a universal basic income would be a very humanistic, Satanistic thing to do. I like the UBI. What do you think?
I definitely agree. You threw me off with the letters there. I was thinking a urinary tract infection for a minute, but yeah, I agree with the other part. But yeah. Yeah,
I suggest you go see a doctor.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But
oh, you think about it. You think about a UDI. You talking about
yeah.
You talking about birth control now.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I'm right on board with you with that, and I don't think it's unreasonable to tax the fucking rich like we used to do. To get.
Yeah, man. I think some of these CEO salaries.
Wages are nearly from a worker's wage to a CEO's wage. There's the CEOs make it's 900 and some, almost 1,000% more than the average worker.
Right.
That's fucking ridiculous. And it's the highest it's ever been. And yet unemployment.
It goes.
I mean, unemployment doesn't get fucking changed. Fucking welfare doesn't get changed. Fucking all of these things that they say that oh well, if you raise minimum wage, then we'll have to raise the price of products. Well, why? Why when the CEO wages are fucking just sponging it all up to begin with? Who the fuck are you trying to kid? You know?
We're gonna have to start asking, is some of this shit in the Bible?
Yeah.
I mean, who says it has to be like that?
Appealing to authority. Yeah, that's in there.
Like I say, if we print money, who the fuck do we owe? If you are so fucking greedy that you need 1,000 times more than what I have,
yeah,
then what the fuck is your problem?
And it's not only 1,000 times more. Then you add the fucking corporate welfare we have on top of that, with all the tax loopholes and shit that we give these fucking people constantly. And it's like, how the fuck you expect somebody to survive on minimum wage? It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. But you know what? This country, as you can see, there's a significant portion of this country that needs to have a total mental redo over.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, there's a percentage of our country, if we don't do something to win a percentage of those people over, we're going to be fucked for a long time.
Yeah. We need to keep people educated. Try to get them to fact check and try to fucking look things up and research shit for once. Instead of just constantly spreading the stupid shit over and over of these, just memes and fucking, I mean, I like memes and stuff, but still. You've got, all of the conspiracy theories that just go fucking wild. Yeah,
for some reason, on my feeds, I don't get much of that bullshit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a reflection of who I am.
Every now and then, even with the atheists and stuff around the area, I'll get just this explosion all of a sudden of fucking nonsense coming up on my feed. I'm like, motherfucker, really? Like, all you had to do was Google it. That was all you had to fucking do.
They didn't ask for no money. It didn't have a donate button. All you got to do is Google the shit.
Right.
But yeah, I try to stay. Come on, look at our president. He is enough for me with all these conspiracies.
Yeah.
Pete, I mean, come on. Pizza Gate.
Yeah.
Really? Pizza fucking Gate?
That was one that was just making it's making its rounds again now, the QAnon thing, where they've had that hashtag, I think it's Save Our Children, and it's by the QAnon, and it's all fucking slanted with their little talking points that they want to get across, and it has, I think more than anything, it's just a way of them trying to take away the limelight from the Black Lives Matter movement at the moment than it is any fucking thing else.
Well, you know what, man? If you look at the news, if you visit all the news sites, you'll see that they have not stopped killing us yet. Yeah. Like, don't think we're gonna back up.
Right.
Don't think we're gonna run out of black men to kill.
Yeah.
They're still. I was just reading something today where 3 officers were fired for the killing of an elderly black man. I can't remember, Alabama, some fucking where, but. Yeah, so I guess, what, are we going to have a tit for tat fucking ethnic racial competition for the next 300-400 years?
Right.
I think if I could get black people off religion to get us to actually use critical thinking to get us out of our current predicament, if I could just convince us, or I think it's time, I think it's a fork in the road.
I wish I could convince white people of that too. Like, there's too many of them now that are getting caught up with the fucking yoga and all that shit. I mean, typical white stereotypes and shit here, but it's true that they're in these fucking yoga communities and shit, and like in with all of these just trading in one faith for another and these fucking magic rocks and stupid bullshit.
Right,
and living in this fantasy world and still not trying to understand science and how the fuck we get to logical conclusions about things. The scientific mindset's just completely fucking gone.
Yeah, you know what they say, you can lead a man to the library, but you can't make him think.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but man, I just want to do what I can. I always feel like I was born in the wrong time.
Yeah.
I should have been born maybe 400 or 500 years from now. I probably would have had a nice time. But the way I see it right now, man, is I'm not a religious person at all. And when I die, I know I ain't going no motherfucking where, but to a cremation center.
Right.
Which that will be my final hell.
There you go.
So basically, what I'm living right now is my heaven. I'll take my heaven while I'm fucking conscious. Yeah. So basically, I got a whole lot of religious people fucking up my heaven.
Yeah, and
but
I think that gives you more initiative to try to fix things for the next generation that has to deal with these fucking assholes too. So
yeah, boy, it's a fight we're up against. Yeah, but man, I've been working on this comedy special I'm doing for over a year. I've been wanting to do this comedy special for a long time. Anyway, I've compiled enough jokes to I could do a 1-hour comedy special. I'm just still working out the kinks, and these fucking GOP and Trump, they're giving me more and more material. This shit is like, if I was drinking water, I'd be like, turn it off. Because these motherfuckers, you can't write this shit.
Oh, yeah.
The jokes write themselves.
Yeah, it's made Saturday Night Live's lives a whole lot fucking easier. I know that. The cast barely have to put anything into material now. You just fucking quote him.
Yeah. Shit, just play clips of fucking CNN.
Yeah.
You're laughing for at least 30. Okay. And this was on MSNBC today. This PBS NewsHour. Check this one out.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing to see, just the epitome of this class warfare that we have on our hands, and the working class and the people in poverty are the sacrificial lambs of fucking capitalism now, and you've got
you would think that we would treat them better, at least,
and you would think
human level.
You would think seeing it on full blast, coming out of a fucking anus mouth all the time on TV, that people would kind of pick up on it. But it's...
Yeah, but you know what? These motherfuckers ran to it like he was giving out free candy.
Oh, yeah. It's just like a fucking
And
cult.
that's what, and if you're a fucking conscious black man like me, who's always like trying to look for the good shit to do, I mean, find something positive, and
Right.
man, this scares the shit out of black people like me, who you know, was kind of invested in my country mentally because, you know, stand for the anthem, fucking land of the free. I'm like, motherfucker, wasn't nobody talking about me when they were talking about land of the free.
Yeah.
We were fucking slaves. You know, so it's a whole lot of waking up people got to do.
Right.
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like Satan Luther King, because I think one day we will get there. But god damn, it ain't gonna be no time soon.
Yeah. I had a fucking nightmare. Instead of a fucking
no,
dream.
the night
We're in it.
The nightmare would be probably around November 8th when we really find out who won this next election.
Oh yeah, I'm curious to see how
That's the fucking night.
how that goes with the fucking postal service down and everything now.
This guy, man. I mean, damn. I thought we were you know, had hit a little rough patch when we, you know, first discovered this fucking pandemic had spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
But then they had to throw in a fucking race riot.
Yeah.
And now this motherfucker, I'm like, man, I like my pandemic straight. Don't throw shit in with my pandemic.
No,
Like, it's
You
too
don't want
much,
those-
man. Fucking California's on fire and shit. I'm smelling smoke every day.
Hey, that's on you guys. Only you can prevent forest fires. Get out,
Like, what
get out there with
next?
the rake.
Yeah, man. This has been one hell of a year.
Yeah.
Take that from Satan. One hell of a year.
Have there been any deaths from the forest fire? Speaking on a more serious note on that, I haven't really kept up with it lately.
I've only heard structures that have fallen victim to the fire so far.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of any, you know, and that's usually what they lead with when someone loses their life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't heard of any death. So you know, I guess there's anything good about these damn fires is they didn't kill anyone yet.
Yeah.
And they will eventually go out.
Right.
You know,
Like
they would just magically disappear like the fucking coronavirus. Fires would just magically disappear.
Hopefully like the fucking dumpster fire that we have in the White House right now, right?
Oh man. I'm exhausted. I don't know about you. I am fucking exhausted.
I am. That's why I'm not really up to date too much with the Kasich thing, because it's just fucking every fucking day it's something new. It's something more fucked up.
Yeah.
That you know, it's like, oh, well, it can't get any more fucked up than this. Just give the Republicans a minute. They got something else worked up.
Oh. What next? I mean, every day I think, what next?
Right.
What's next? What is this motherfucker gonna say next? Yeah, I'm fucking with the post office. I don't give a fuck. I'll tell you. I'm fucking with them. Yeah. I don't want them mailing shit.
Yeah.
Imagine that. I mean, he basically just came out and told everybody, and
Yeah.
what you gonna do? I'm the fucking president. Like,
Well,
you know,
and it was
if that was Barack,
right
if
before
that was Barack,
Yeah, exactly.
that motherfucker would be in a jail under fucking Congress, wherever they got that jail cell that they never use. Barack would be there. Because they'd have his ass locked up for pulling half of this shit that Trump has been pulling.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. And
I mean, now he's coming up with this birther shit on Kamala Harris.
oh my god, yeah. And
I'm like,
people trying to
dude.
say she's not black and like all kinds of stupid shit.
Right, all kinds of shit. It's like,
That's what I made the post.
when is enough enough? When is like fucking?
I made the post. I said, watch out, everybody. The Republicans are getting ready to get out their fucking color chart to see what fucking shade Kamala Harris is.
Spin the wheel.
She's a little bit too light. She's going in a fucking cage down around the Mexican border. So, I don't, you know, it's just.
You know what? I knew she was going to get up there. I didn't know. I was thinking she would get the nomination, But I met her in 2016. The guy that was running my campaign this time here, he introduced me to her in 2016 when I ran Kamala Harris. He introduced me to Maxine Waters. He passed away a few months ago. I knew Kamala just had something about her, the way she carried herself, maybe her posturing or just charismatic. Something told me like, oh, she's gonna exceed in politics. You know, even though I felt that she was like, establishment.
I know that's.
But I still felt that she would get some.
I know it's one thing you've been seeing on your page, or on your news feed is the amount of bullshit, just the mudslinging towards her lately, because I've been seeing it too, but most of that goes away once she gets elected, right? Or once they get elected. I fucking hope so. I think Biden's gonna be dead after 6 months, so she'll be president. It's fucking ridiculous though. I looked up like every fucking thing these people, because like when I go to look something up, I'll try to prove it fucking wrong the same way you do in fucking science and everything. You try to prove the fucking thing. Advocate. Yeah. So that's what I aim for, and every one of them, every fucking thing got proven wrong that they were trying to say about her. And as far as actually looking and seeing the statistics of her voting record and the way that she votes and everything while she's been in office, it's been pretty well spot on. Like, it hasn't... You can't really have many bitches about that. I mean, we got fucking Joe Manchin right next door that got in West Virginia, and he's voting at like 50% with fucking Trump. You don't have to tell me about Joe Manchin, goddamn blue dog Democrat, whatever the fuck they call him. I'm just glad, I'm an independent. After the last election, I changed. Yeah. It's like okay. After our primaries were over. Yeah. That's what, like, I wanted Bernie in. It didn't fucking happen. Yeah, me too. But, I mean, I'm not one of those Bernie or bust people that's going to fucking stand by and just watch Trump elect 2 more fucking Supreme Court justices and put our youth at risk. So. Yeah, you like me. I understand math. Yeah. This shit is binary. That means 2. You got 2 fucking people to choose from. Yeah. Trump or this guy over here whose heart is still beating. Yeah. Who are you going to pick? And, I mean, Biden and Harris will be in there for a term or 2, but the Supreme Court justices that get chosen, they're going to be in there for a fucking lifetime. So that's something that really needs to be fucking looked at when you're thinking about who to vote for. Hey, tell me what you think about this. I got a feeling once Trump leaves office, those appointees that he put on the Supreme Court, I got a feeling they're gonna have a change of heart because it's gonna be some decisions. You mark my word. There's gonna be some decisions made that I think it will be I would just call it a rethink of even having President Trump put them on the Supreme Court. Yeah. I think it's gonna be a little backlash. From Trumpism. So that's what I'm hoping for. I hope that the Supreme Court gets much more sensible. I hope so too. And after the notorious, after Ginsburg, after she leaves the court, however way she leaves. Yeah. I hope there is an African American woman placed on the court. Yeah. I mean, just for diversity. Right. Just a different person's life experience. And let's find someone who has experienced shit and knows the history of the country. Right. I'm sure whoever it is would be a good appointment, but just some diversity. Let's mix it up a little bit. Yeah, get a few of the old white people out of there. Yeah, I mean I agree. Yeah, fuck it, Chinese. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. Navajo, Cherokee, just fucking mix it up. Right. America is more than one monolithic voice. We are a voice of many. We're a fucking choir, supposedly, of justice and freedom. Isn't that amazing how we've come this far and we've went from the fucking melting pot to the fucking shit pot at this point? But like, right. Well, you see, chocolate don't melt. Yeah.
We fucking peanut M&Ms. We ain't melted in this motherfucker at all.
Well, I think that about wraps up what I had for you. If you want to plug your stuff.
Hey, just let me say before I go, I don't know when you're going to put this up, but on August 30th, I'm doing a conference for a group out of Seattle, and I've always loved the Pacific Northwest because Portland, it's a lot of good white people there. Washington, Seattle, I had relatives in Seattle that I used to go and visit. Really a lot of good progressive American fucking patriots in the Pacific. So this group, I'll be doing a conference online, and you can go to my website. I can share the link, not my website, but my Facebook and my Instagram, Steve Hill Comic on Instagram. And I think my campaign site is still up, Steve Hill for Senate 2020. Anyways, I'll be putting the links up. So everybody go to that conference and hear what I have to talk about.
Okay.
Because I got some interesting shit to say.
You want to mention the charity organization that you have?
The group?
That you,
the VITA program I'm working with the Sheriff's Department.
Yeah.
VITA program, Vital Intervention and Directional Alternative for Youth. It's an at-risk youth group that the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and I used to fundraise and volunteer my time, but mostly I would put on comedy shows and donate the money to pay poor kids who are financially challenged. I pay their way into the program for them, and give them kind of like a mentoring big brother type situation that happens in the VITA program. But anyway,
that's great, man. Sounds like a good program to be involved with.
Oh yeah, man. Once you look at grown ass men in prison for about 10 years straight, every day, it does something to you. So yeah, whatever I can do to keep kids from going that direction, criminal justice system ain't shit to play with.
Right.
Because it eats black men up for dinner.
I was gonna ask. I forgot I was gonna ask it earlier, but do you have any favorite comedians that or any that you look up to?
Hey, George Carlin, man.
George Carlin.
George Carlin. Yeah, that's my guy because he tells shit that's real.
Oh yeah.
I have a thing, and when I started doing comedy, I would have like two different sets. One set I'd be talking about, religion and all the shit that you don't supposed to tell jokes about, and the other is just a set of dumb jokes for the audience members who you not very they're not really thinkers. They just go and tell dumb jokes, like, oh, your mama's so fat, all that, stupid jokes like that, which I don't do good at.
Thank you for being on. I appreciate you having patience with me and everything with all of the issues I've had on my end, and I'm glad you got to be on.
Yeah, anytime I can help out a fellow Satanist, ain't too many of us around. Enjoy the talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, in other news, this comes from religionnews.com. Missionaries gain access to Amazon's indigenous peoples despite the pandemic. And I gotta admit, I haven't, I kind of trimmed this down a little bit. There was a lot more to read. If you wanted to go on to their website, I'm sure it'd be easy enough to Google and find. But when the first cases of COVID-19 hit Brazil in March, the National Indigenous Foundation ordered all civilians to leave the indigenous reservation, except essential workers such as healthcare personnel and those involved in food distribution. A new law signed by President, and just excuse my pronunciations on everything, but President Jair Bolsonaro on July 7th has now made an exception to Christian missionaries. A form by a doctor vouching for a faith worker's health can now give that person the right to stay as an essential worker. Alicio Marubo, who is a lawyer for the Indigenous Peoples Association of the River Havari Valley, aka Univaja, said a few villages reported that there were evangelical missionaries in their area who refused to go away. In April, Univaja sued to force out these missionaries, including at least 2 who are U.S. citizens. It was an important legal victory against a group that is closely aligned with Bolsonaro. Marubo said, "We're questioning the legislation in order to restore the self-determination prerogative of the indigenous peoples." One missionary expelled in April was Andrew Tonkin of the Frontier International Mission, an independent free will Baptist mission ministry based in the U.S. One of its goals, according to their site, is to establish mission work among the unreached indigenous people groups across the world. Tonkin tried last year to get the river Itacao, Itacoai, one of Havari's tributaries. Marubo said he already managed to approach an area of isolated people without authorization. People who knew him say that he believes that the men's rules don't apply because his presence is God's will. So, this reminds me of not that long ago where the dude carrying the Bible was a missionary trying to reach this little island of indigenous people and had an arrow struck into the fucking Bible, which was probably a pretty fucking clear warning to anybody else that had 2 fucking brain cells to rub together. But he took that as a welcome greeting, I guess, and came back and ended up dying. So, at what point do these fucking idiots realize that they don't want them there? That these communities do not want them there for good reason. Because Christianity has spread a lot of fucking hate. It's spread a lot of disease. It's spread a lot of destruction to areas around the world. It astounds me that you can't figure this out, that even during a pandemic, when we see all of these groups of Christians gathering together, spreading COVID-19, like it's just, it's fucking incredible.
Look, none of this shocks me. The need to spread that bullshit, it's been ingrained in that religion for 2,000 years. It just has not dissipated whatsoever. I've always wondered what it would be like is if 100% of the world's population would become Christian. Then what? What do you do?
Kill each other because they aren't true Christians.
Well, yeah, I mean that would start well before. But no, let's say 100% of the world's population was truly converted. What do you do? What then?
They just branch off like they've always done, and it would be other Christian sects, and it would just be endless violence still.
Like would the Baptists and Baptists and missionaries and people like that to Methodist churches and try to convert them?
Yeah, the whole idea is ridiculous to begin with, because even if you got down to one sect of Christianity that just ruled everything, then it's still going to end up branching off because other people are still going to interpret the biblical text differently. They're still going to end up... You can't stop people from thinking about shit. You can't stop people from disagreeing with those certain areas of the Bible.
I mean, in the first place, I'm going to be real upfront. I don't understand how you can misinterpret the word of a supreme being being directly written. I mean, if that's what these people believe, then fine. Like, how do you disagree on even if he's speaking in allegory or if he's speaking literally? How the fuck do you get 2 interpretations of that? You either understand that the dude said what he said and that's what he meant, or...
Even more basic than that, how do you expect a whole book based off of tribalism to not create tribalism?
It has baffled me for years, like to watch people like fight over, like the people, like supposedly if this book is the word of God, then how do you disagree? How do you disagree on interpretation? Like, dude said what he said, he meant what he meant. How do you disagree on that?
And if your God's all-knowing, how did he not have the foresight to realize that
People
that
were
was
going to
to
disagree.
happen?
Yeah. Fuck, man. Like,
If he's all-powerful, why didn't he create a better system for spreading his message?
it just, yeah, exactly. Like, couldn't he just play? He had the foresight to know that we were going to invent tape recorders. So why couldn't he have put that shit on book form, on email form, on tape recorder form, every single type of form, and we could all hear it like it was firsthand rather than...
Even better than that, he's outside of time and space, right? So he's already got the ability to know any kind of future technology that would have carried his message far beyond what we would know. So why not have it engraved into some form of material that would
You mean
stand
like stone
the test
tablets?
of time? Yeah, like stone tablets that degrade.
Looking at you, Moses. Motherfucker.
For titanium.
Whatever
or,
happened to those tablets?
Anything that would have been a little bit better than fucking stone.
Did they ever say what happened to those tablets?
Oh, there was. Well, yeah, he fucking broke them.
Why did he break them?
He got all pissed because people were down there worshipping a calf while he was up on the Mount Sinai or whatever. Fucking, yeah. So he comes down, they're all worshipping this golden calf. It still astounds me because then Christians have their fucking necklaces that have goddamn crosses on them, which is a fucking image that they're basically worshipping, but not really, you know? And Catholics have their fucking, all of their saints that they have statues of and worship and shit, and the fucking things of the Virgin Mary. But, you know, that doesn't count either, even though it's right in their fucking text that
Are
says not
Catholics
to.
technically Christians?
Yeah. I mean, it's still from the Abrahamic religion and still Christianity at its base.
But they just went like a really different route.
They add shit on. They got different texts that they consider to be holy texts, but
thou shalt always
not part of
diddle
the Bible.
children, being commandment number 11. Yeah. No, that's I'm aware of that one. I've heard of that one in action.
How many is it? The first used to know all of the 10 Commandments by heart and all that shit, or by brain, but that's another thing you could get into. It's the whole idea of spirit, there being a spirit and shit, that stems from breath. That was literally the translation was breath, because that was the only way that an ignorant fucking group of people could tell if somebody was alive or not at the time, was whether they were breathing. When you were born, you breathed in breath of life, or the spirit as it got translated later. And when you died, you drew your last breath, or you exhaled your last breath.
Yeah.
Or spirit. Yeah, that alone, that you're... Why, if... I know it'll come down to the no true Christian, like the no true Scotsman fallacy that they love to use, that oh, well, those aren't true Christians over there, we're the true Christians, and this set of beliefs is the true Christians. Well, what about those other Christians over there that think the same fucking thing you do about their Christianity? Like I said, a text that nurtures tribalism is always going to nurture tribalism. It's always going to create a divide. It's always going to have things in it that people aren't going to agree on. And that's the other fucking thing. Jesus, even if you go by the Bible and shit, which is just absolute shit and nonsense and doesn't hold up historically at all from the evidence that we have throughout the years, from the floods, that we have fucking trees that were alive during that fucking time, to the civilizations that were still around at that time that we have artifacts from, to all of the fucking several things that just disprove all that to begin with, to the exodus of the Jews that were coming right through an area of Rome, I believe, that the Romans were notorious for their bookkeeping and shit, and they just mystically did not have any records of this mass amount of Jews coming through their area at the time. They just happened to overlook that day. They were all asleep. To Jesus performing all of these miracles and shit, and the fucking people that wrote these books not agreeing on certain things, and and the fact that a lot of it that's holding weight historically was written by Paul that never claimed to actually see Jesus to begin with, and that all of these books were written 100 years after Jesus had died. I don't get, like, how anyone thinks that this shit holds up to begin with, and then to have all of these separate little sects off of it, and not be able to see that there's clear division on all of it.
Santa Claus on steroids, man. Seriously, like you're raised to believe Santa Claus is real, and then you use your critical thinking and your observation skills.
It's even worse than that, because it's a bunch of multiple gods that were formed into one fucking god and considered a monotheistic god, even though it's polytheistic if you look at all of the fucking gods intertwined to it.
I mean, it runs off the idea that you can't prove a negative. I think that's what it comes down to, as to why so many people believe it. You have to. It's based only on...
You have to have faith.
Right. And some people just have that. It's an easy type of crutch to lean on whenever you don't understand the universe or don't understand something. And
that's why they constantly feel threatened by science, because science has more proof behind it than faith can provide.
Right.
Because if it's there right in front of your face, if you can witness it, if you can see the things happening and understand how things work, well, then you don't need faith.
I mean, imagine, if you will, you're 2,000 years, you live 2,000 years ago, you look up in the sky after a storm and you see a rainbow. And as an inspired individual who sees the rainbow and says that, that's so pretty, 2,000 years ago, you don't have the knowledge or the capability of understanding why that rainbow is there. So what do? You tend to leap to mysticism in order to explain why that rainbow is there. And now here we are, 2,000 years later, reading about it in the Bible, saying it's God's promise not to basically murder everybody in the world, when really it's it's light refracting from the fucking water particles. So science is able to explain that, but 2,000 years ago, they didn't understand that. They didn't know how to explain it. And so, the Word of God, that's His promise, is to refract light. I'm just saying, like,
the amount of fucking
refraction of light is apparently God's promise. That, like, the supreme being, and that's the effort He puts forth to promise you He's not going to murder people anymore. Like, are you kidding me right now? And that's your fucking proof, Ken Ham, piece of shit.
The amount of trust that they put in these prophecies and shit too. If you write something down right now and put a vague message in it about something in the future, if it isn't self-fulfilling because somebody read it and fucking did it anyway, or it's just been beaten into people's brains for fucking ever, then there's still a good fucking possibility that something's going to be similar enough to happen like that and be read into as being a fulfillment of that prophecy. It happens all the fucking time, and not just with the Bible, with Nostradamus, with several different people that made all of these prophecies that so supposedly got fulfilled. It's just astounding that people can't connect that they can't connect that you're just looking at something and seeing what you want to see.
Or making a generalized prediction that seems to be so abstract at the time that, like, as a society, we've evolved to a point where we can predict these things. Like,
it's like staring at one of those mud puddles out there and marveling over the wondrous amount of how it can just look at how it just knows how much water to hold in it. That it's just never too much. That's just got enough in there. That it's just, that is so amazing. Like,
it's quite amazing. The human imagination is it's an amazing thing, but it's obviously led us to a world that we live in now.
This next article comes from NOLA.com, and a Louisiana man has been sentenced to life in prison for stealing hedge clippers. Fairwayne Bryant is serving life in prison after stealing hedge clippers, and the state Supreme Court won't review his case. He was sentenced for stealing the clippers in 1997 from a Caddo Parish storage room. And last week, the Supreme Court denied a request to review that sentence. Chief Justice Burnett Johnson said, "The sentence is excessive and disproportionate to the offense the defendant committed." According to Johnson, since the conviction of Bryant in 1997, it has cost Louisiana taxpayers $518,667. She stated, "Arrested at 38, Mr. Bryant has already spent nearly 23 years in prison and is now over 60 years old. If he lives another 20 years, Louisiana taxpayers will have paid almost $1 million to punish Mr. Bryant for his failed efforts to steal a set of hedge clippers." Bryant was convicted 4 times and is thereby sanctioned by the habitual offender law in Louisiana. Johnson said that this was a modern manifestation of pig laws that were created after Reconstruction. The laws made extreme sentences for petty theft and criminalized recently emancipated African American citizens. Johnson goes on to say, "This man's life sentence for a failed attempt to steal a set of hedge clippers is grossly out of proportion to the crime and serves no legitimate penal purpose."
That is the most unreal thing I've ever heard. Can you imagine? Can you imagine going to jail for like that long for stealing hedge clippers?
No, and he apparently had 3 other offenses before this, but it was like petty theft and shit like that. It's not like he's a murderer or something. Like, I mean, talk about the punishment not fitting the crime.
I don't understand if he like took those hedge clippers to murder a family or like hold up and rob multiple stores like that. That's insane. What purpose is that? Is it punishment, or is there redemption?
You know that Christian saying, "An eye for an eye, a million eyes for an eye." I don't know how that fucking works.
It's absolutely crazy. And again, it comes down to what is the purpose there? Are you just trying to keep them off the street, or do you want to reform the person? That just comes down to, I feel like an evangelical sat down and wrote that kind of a law.
Oh, you think? I mean, it is Louisiana.
Yeah, tell me about it. The Deep South, no less. It just baffles me. There's not as much of a focus on redeeming a person in the world that we live in. It's more about redeeming a person in the eyes of God. But yet, this person will still sit in prison, believing whatever they believe, without an ounce of idea that they could have been redeemed, in this real world to go back and be a contributing member of society.
This next article comes from Pathos. TST, Satanic Abortion Ritual. Satanic abortions are protected by religious liberty laws. Several years ago in Missouri, a member of the Satanic Temple argued in court that she didn't need to follow the state's 72-hour waiting period for abortions because it violated her religious belief that one's body is inviolable and subject to one's own will alone. The lawsuit was unsuccessful, mostly due to the fact that she was no longer pregnant at the time the judge issued a ruling. It happened again in 2019 when the courts determined a woman could still technically get abortions, and the plaintiff wasn't singled out because she was a Satanist, even though many obstacles were still in the way of the abortion. TST has now laid down groundwork for future battles over abortion, claiming that all first trimester abortions must be exempt from state regulations that hinder access. Those hurdles violate 2 of the 7 tenets regarding bodily autonomy and adherence to the best scientific practices that we have. They've basically used the same Hobby Lobby Supreme Court decision to back their religious rights. In the Hobby Lobby case, an evangelical business owner prevented insurance providers from covering his employees' birth control to defend a woman's right to choose. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act, RFRA, prohibits government involvement when it interferes with someone's religious practices. By saying that abortions in the first trimester are a religious ritual for their members, any states that have their own RFRA laws would have to show why their medically unnecessary restrictions should override Satanist religious freedom. Some laws that may interfere with Satanist right to bodily autonomy are mandatory wait times, burial and funeral of fetal remains, practitioners withholding certain medical information, compulsory counseling prior to abortion, mandatory listening to the heartbeat of the fetus, and requiring reading materials to be read before going through a procedure. The ritual is as follows. Prior to receiving any anesthetic or sedation, look at your reflection to be reminded of your personhood and your responsibility to yourself. Focus on your intent. Take deep breaths and make yourself comfortable. When you are ready, say the third and fifth tenets out loud. You may now undergo surgery. After the surgery is completed and any anesthetic has worn off, return to your reflection and recite your personal affirmation. Feel doubts dissipating and your confidence grow, as you have just undertaken a decision that affirms your autonomy and free will. The religious abortion ritual is now complete. There is also a template letter TST offers to give officials for the religious exemption, and it is as follows. Because the abortive act is inextricably linked to the religious right, a burden on the act is a burden on the right. State law implements some or all of the following generally applicable burdens on the abortive act, each of which substantially interfere with my religious beliefs and practices. Mandatory waiting periods, requirements that practitioners withhold certain medical information, compulsory counseling prior to an abortion, requiring reading materials, medically unnecessary sonograms, mandatory listening to fetal heartbeats, burial or cremation of fetal remains. This is all still new territory as far as the courts are concerned, so we'll have to wait and hope for the best with the outcome. But at least it is a step farther in the right direction for bodily autonomy and much more progress than I've seen any other religion present yet.
I always love listening to what the Satanic Temple is doing in regards to this sort of thing, because I'm not part of it, but I very much understand that they are taking something that is violating the person and turning it around into, well, okay, if you're going to allow people certain religious protections, we're going to go ahead and use it to our advantage and protect the person at the same time. There is nothing more noble in my mind than to take upon themselves what they're doing, because it could be used throughout the entire country as a means of protecting women and allowing women to exercise, personal choice in a way that's meaningful.
Yeah, I completely agree. I am a member, but I can't speak on behalf of anything to do with the organization, and I wouldn't. But as far as my personal feelings on all of the issues and everything go, I am completely on board with it, and I'm proud of them coming this far.
Rightfully so. I mean, they're going in a direction that seems to be a little more. It's definitely going to get to be on a national level where I feel like this conversation isn't over, right? There's going to be more articles. There's going to be, at some point, I'm sure there will be some sort of mainstream coverage on this. And whether it's by CNN or Fox or any of the other big three, it doesn't matter. The point here is that, they're going to get some sort of coverage outside of local discussion on it. And it's important. It's something, social media is powerful as well. So it's not just going to stay within certain circles. People are going to see this, and it's going to reach outside of the Satanic Temple community and be more on par with women's rights. It's so important.
I mean, it has me choked up a bit, just because it's so fucking dumb that we've gotten to this point in this country that you don't recognize a person as a being and having control over their bodies or being able to determine what they do with their own bodies, but you view a fetus as a life and able to have more rights than the person carrying it. And it's just astounding to me. And I mean, I know there's a lot of controversy on these issues, and a lot of it boils down to what we consider a life to be a life. When is that period of life? Or, because, I mean, there's a reason that the medical field uses the term fetus rather than fucking baby. Those are separate fucking terms. Those are separate things. And as far as being able to determine when life begins, when we look at where life ends, because you could always say the first breath, or you could say the first heartbeat, or you could say the heartbeats before the brain's ever developed. So at that point, you're still looking at a clump of cells, and it's not even formed into anything yet, and yet they want to consider that a life. Well, okay, why aren't we giving that a social security number? Why aren't we giving that a fucking, you know what I mean? Why aren't, it's so dumb, the disconnect with people, that they don't understand, even though we know, because we have fucking laws, that we will not give that a social security number until it's at birth.
I'm not seeing Gerber offer life insurance to 12 week fetuses. Yeah, and I agree 100%.
And I mean, even when it comes to the heartbeat and shit, there's people that have no heartbeats. There are people with artificial. I just read that a few years ago, where somebody had an artificial heart put into place, and they have no heartbeat at all. It's a pump. That's all they need, is to recirculate the blood, and it's a constant flow. There's no heartbeat at all in that person.
That is wild. So you're saying there's a chance that I could be a cyborg if I ever have a heart attack. I shouldn't even say if. I should say if and when I have a heart attack. That could be a thing.
And then you could say, well, breath. Well, we got people on ventilators and shit that literally it all comes down to brain activity and shit, doesn't it?
But the reason you breathe, it's to absorb oxygen and nitrogen.
Yeah.
From the air, yeah. You breathe pure oxygen, you'll die. But for too long anyway, you'll die. But that's beyond the point.
But yeah, I mean, you hook somebody up to a machine, and it's doing the breathing for them, and they're still considered alive. So even that thinking of things has been disproven. And I mean, all of that's just, regardless, it's ridiculous that the actual undergoing of following through with a pregnancy is more destructive to a woman's body and puts their life at risk more than what an abortion ever does. And that's scientifically proven. It's medically proven. It's not just bullshit from a fucking book.
Well, think about what they could actually do with that kind of approach to this. Could be taken beyond just abortion. That type of approach could also be taken forward with reproductive rights as a whole. For instance, having women going in at 21 years old to be sterilized and being told by doctors.
I thought you meant the TST's push on things.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, is the TST could take that and reform it into not just abortion, but voluntary sterilization from women who go in without any kids, without being married, or while married, and was your husband. No. this is a personal choice. A man walks into a clinic and wants to have this sort of thing done. Would he receive this much?
Even farther than that, I'd like to see it cover people's ability to be able to, if they've got cancer, if they've got a
medically
disease, whatever, and they want
suicide. I had a feeling you were going that route with this. Yeah,
because
I agree.
That falls under bodily autonomy as well.
Yep,
and that's something that kind of hits home with me, because I had to watch my grandpa die a slow, agonizing death from cancer. But yeah, I'd really like to see and it enforced more. And I mean, TST, they're still pretty young here, and it's still pretty early to tell what else they might challenge, or what else whenever they are able to attain the funding for those things.
They'll get there. Something tells me they'll get there. If they, especially like membership, I can only imagine membership increasing because of this sort of thing. They're coming at it from a point of view that is very humanist and focuses on human beings. You know, you are important. We are important. Like as individuals, you're important. And it just seems to me that they're going about it that way. And if they continue to push issues like that and focus on autonomy and just fighting for the average person, I think you're going to see some good come out of it. Even if they fail in one attempt, they may lose a battle, but they're not going to lose the war. Society is inherently progressive. We're not the same we were 2,000 years ago, because as a species, human beings are constantly evolving their way of thinking. They'll win out eventually, and it's a matter of...
That being said, we cannot allow Trump to decide on the next Supreme Court justices in this fucking country. There's that would hinder all of this horribly. And I mean, regardless of your feelings on the political system and how it's set up, like, I don't completely agree with how the two-party system's working in this country, but to allow him to get another fucking term is to allow the next several generations to have just rights taken away from them and not be able to benefit from these things that TST's fighting for. I mean, that's my personal belief on it, and I don't think it's ridiculous to think that, especially when we've been witnessing what the fuck happens with Trump under a term, and it's not going to fucking get any better.
Another 4 years will send him into a state of coasting by and acting and pushing for whatever he thinks is going to be a good idea, regardless of long-term effects. Most presidents do that anyway, but regardless, his is an especially abrasive agenda to humanity, just individual rights. The irony of being in a party that prides themselves on individual liberty.
And keeps kids in cages at the border.
Yeah, and yet he just...
And denies people from coming into the country.
I've never understood.
Trying to legally attain citizenship.
I've never understood the cognitive dissonance it takes to have the sort of platform that he has and yet allows that sort of thing to happen. It's bizarre. It's the most bizarre shit I've ever experienced.
I think, and this is where people are, it never surprised me that the Christian conservatives were all on board with him. I don't know why it surprised anybody about that. It never surprised me. Their whole idea is to appeal to authority. Their whole idea is to restrict people's rights and everything. It's never been a big surprise to me. And I'd seen it in the church, and I'd seen our pastor wanting him in office before he ever ran. I can remember him talking about that. And even back then, when I was still into religion pretty deep, I can remember thinking, like, you want this asshole that has a TV show that it's just all about his ego and shit, and you want him in office. What the fuck is he going to do? And that wasn't even taking into consideration all of the failed businesses and shit that he's had. Like, it's just incredibly ridiculous. And there's no, like, I mean, say what you want about Kamala Harris, you look at her fucking voting record while she's been in Congress, and it's pretty fucking good. She's got a good track record as far as Democrats go. Much better than fucking Joe Manchin, I can tell you that. I did look all of it up the other day. Like, Joe Manchin's agreed with Trump on somewhere around 50% of the fucking things that the Republicans brought up.
He's a moderate.
Kamala Harris is below 20 or around 20%, and that's mostly for shit that was just trying to open the U.S. again after the Republicans had shut it down.
That doesn't shock me. Manchin, I believe Manchin's more of a very moderate, so he can swing either way. Usually moderates are easier to sway toward one side of the aisle or the other based on whatever politics are in front of him. If it gives him a tactical advantage to win the next election, why not? That's typically how that goes.
It's also crazy the fucking amount of just misinformation that I've seen the past few fucking weeks come across Facebook. I don't know whether to fucking smack these people or thank them, because I've learned something every time that I've looked up this stupid fucking buffoonery that they put up and these stupid conspiracy theories. But it gets so fucking annoying, so frustrating. If you see something, fucking just research it. Oh my god, everything from fucking Pizzagate still going around. The Save the Children thing is QAnon has taken over that and has tried to run the...
All lives matter, not just children lives.
All lives matter. Yeah.
All lives matter.
Yeah.
You can't say children lives matter. You can't say blue lives matter. You can't say black lives matter.
That means that they're on board with the pedophiles' lives mattering too, right?
There you go. All lives matter, ladies and gentlemen. You can't live in a world where you get to say bullshit like that, and you can't. I'm sorry, you can't do that. It's just like freedom of speech. Like, people that use freedom of speech, the defense for people to say shit that they agree with, and then when someone says something they don't agree with, they don't tend to whip that defense out. And there was I believe a study a couple years ago that showed people just tend to whip that out when it benefits them. Honey, you're not special. It applies to everybody. And if you're going to say all lives matter instead of black lives matter, you better fucking chill whenever someone says child lives matter, because guess what? All lives matter, motherfucker. And at what point, and I'm saying that sarcastically, obviously,
of course,
children lives matter. Child's lives matters.
Children.
Pedophiles, I would probably argue, nah, not so much. Go to therapy or go to jail. Those are your two options. Go to therapy or go to jail. That's my opinion on it. Arguably go to jail and get therapy while you're in jail and help you live out your life like that, whatever. But I find that very interesting. I almost posted it on Facebook, but I don't want the backlash with it. I'm not willing to go that route, but I will say it would cause a lot of fucking backlash. I'd probably have some conservative up in my inbox.
It's funny that just all of a sudden it just broke loose and you saw all these hashtags going up and shit, and all of these articles going up, and all of this shit.
Child lives matters.
And then trying to accuse the media of not covering this shit whenever they have been covering it. Like, what do you want to fucking happen other than it's up in the courts right now? And fucking Donald Trump giving his little messages to fucking Maxwell, telling her that, what was it, that he wished her well or something, which is almost as mafia as it fucking gets. and then, like, her lawyers and shit are tying up the court right now, not releasing documents. So, like, what more do you want to fucking be... Like, what more do you want covered? Whenever nothing's fucking happening with it right now. Whenever the shit isn't, like...
Well, they say it's not being covered by media as they share an article of coverage from the media.
Yes.
Yeah. How many fucking articles? Like, listen, media doesn't just mean TV. Get your phone out, get a newspaper, read some shit because it is being covered. We're not just pulling this out of our assholes.
That's the other thing. Like, how many of these fucking people are even watching TV to begin with to even know? Almost no. Like, I mean, most of it's. I don't know about you, but like most of the shit I watch is like Netflix and streaming fucking networks.
I don't typically turn on cable TV. It's trash. So yeah, no, I'm gonna get my shit from journals and news articles from sources online. Like, I mean, and it's not just one source; it's multiple sources.
No, and that's another important thing for people to keep in mind is that even Fox News has accredited fucking journalists there. They aren't, you know what I mean? It's still not quite the Alex Jones fucking bullshit being thrown out constantly, but there are a lot of opinion articles that lean that fucking way from journalists they should probably fucking get rid of. But, you know what I mean? In general, those news stations like CNN and Fox, they still have decent journalists working for them that are trying to get truth out. And,
they sometimes have to bend to the network's
and they have
political lean.
Yeah, they have a set of rules and shit that they have to go by. They have to still abide by the shit to do that, unless it's an opinion article, which I think they should just leave out completely from news if it's going to be news. But you can thank Ronald Reagan for that.
You can thank him for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Sounds of it.
Trickle down.
Yeah, the next time you see children's lives matter, number one, please agree. And number two, sarcastically, maybe mention all lives matter. see how triggered you can make a conservative today?
I think it's funny that they kind of don't mention the whole pedophile ring that's been happening with the Catholic Church for fucking ever. Their focus isn't on that. Strangely enough.
Catholics' lives matter.
Yeah.
They matter.
Catholic pedophiles matter.
Amoeba lives matter. Bacteria lives matter. Blade of grass lives matter, Dan.
Is COVID alive? COVID lives matter?
Yeah, COVID actually is alive. George Carlin's take on the sanctity of life. It applies so perfectly in this situation. This whole argument, George Carlin and the sanctity of life, his take is amazing. It's so accurate.
I hope you enjoyed our show. Once again, a special thanks goes out to Steve Hill. You can check him out on Facebook, Steve Hill 2020, or on Instagram, Steve Hill Comic, and the Vita program that he's involved with. Vida, vida.la. Our artwork is by Jamie Coptic. You can find her artwork at jamiecoptic.studio. Our music is by Bridge City Centers, through and through. You can find that at bridgecitycenters.com. If you've been looking for a secular therapist and you can't seem to find one, maybe go on to seculartherapy.org. And if you are just recently coming out of religion and are struggling some, you can go to recoveringfromreligion.org. If you like our content, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube and on Facebook, and donate to us if you can at paypal.me/skepticalsatanist.
Hail Satan and hail yourselves.